So the other day we talked about the situation in Canada with the trucker blockade. Now, all of the facts in this story matter because it's a roller coaster ride in terms of things I support and don't support. So, one of the things I brought up is that 90% of the truckers are vaccinated. And so the overwhelming majority are looking at these protesters, these truckers doing the blockade, and they're going, just get vaccinated. Like, just do it. It's good for the community. It's good for the collective. It's good for yourself. Over 90% protection from severe illness, hospitalization, and death. Just get vaccinated. The other thing is the Teamsters Union, which represents the truckers in Canada, is against the protest and the blockade. So the point I'm making here is that this isn't simply a working class uprising because their main thing is end the mandates. And it's like, okay, fine opinion to have. We can debate that. We can discuss that. But me personally, I like protests and I like blockades for things like universal health care and higher wages and, more unionization and ending wars and things of that nature. That's what I'd get behind. Now, to be fair, in Canada, they already have universal health care, so they're not going to protest for universal health care. But if anything, I'm just jealous as a leftist watching what they're doing because they have military people, former military and former police who are like running the thing. And so they're very disciplined in how they're acting. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I've never seen the left be this organized. Certainly in my entire life. Certainly my time on this planet being alive, the left has never been this organized. Closest we got was Occupy Wall Street, and that was relatively disorganized. There was a lot of bodies there, but it was still relatively disorganized. Anyway, okay. So that is, the general breakdown of what's going on. The Canadian government is now responding in a way that I think is absolutely insane, and it sets a devastating precedent moving forward. So the Canadian government held this press conference the other day, and they laid out some of the things that they're going to do. Watch this.
First, we are broadening the scope of Canada's anti-money laundering and terrorist financing rules so that they cover crowdfunding platforms and the payment service providers they use. These changes cover all forms of transactions, including digital assets, such as cryptocurrencies. The illegal blockades have highlighted the fact that crowdfunding platforms and some of the payment service providers they use are not fully captured under the Proceeds of Crime and Terrorist Financing Act.
So they're calling them terrorists. No. That's not accurate. They're not doing violence for a political reason. That's not what's happening. The overwhelming majority of these people are peaceful, regardless if you agree or disagree with their politics. That's irrelevant to the question here. The question is, are they actually terrorists? The answer is no. So I saw this and I was like, this can't be true. It's coming straight out of the mouth of a Canadian government official. But I was like, this can't be true. So I dug a little deeper to figure out whether it was true. And the reality is even worse than I thought. So take a look at this. This is from BBC News. Trudeau vows to freeze anti-mandate protesters' bank accounts. Their bank accounts. So we covered one of the angles to this story previously is that they raised about $10 million through GoFundMe. And then GoFundMe seized that money. And they were like, no, you're not going to get it. What? So I said at the time when I saw that, no. Again, I don't care what you think of the nature of this specific protest. The precedent it sets to have crowdfunding sites say, we're going to decide based on our own politics or based on some pressure from a government that we're not going to allow you to have access to the funds that are yours, that were donated to you. I hate that. These platforms, whether it's, big tech, social media companies, or something like a crowdfunding site, they're supposed to be just mediums. They're supposed to be just like, look, anybody could use it for any reason. Now, are there still rules? Sure, you can't crowdfund a murder. Murder is illegal. Protesting is not illegal. Regardless of what you think of the specifics and the nature of this protest, for GoFundMe to seize their money is a gigantic overstep. I don't know if it was because of pressure from the Canadian government. I don't know if it was because of the personal politics within the company, GoFundMe itself, but they froze it, and that's inexcusable. But now they're going further, calling them terrorists, and they vow to freeze their personal bank accounts. By the way, zero oversight. This doesn't go in front of a judge. There is no due process. They're just going to freeze the accounts. That's what they want to do. No. Hard no. And again, you have to understand the main point here. I don't care what you think about the nature of this specific protest. If you set this precedent, it is going to be used on Black Lives Matter protesters. It's going to be used on leftists. It's going to be used on unions protesting for higher wages and more vacation time. It's going to be used like that. So you draw a hard line right now and you say, hell no, we can't allow it. We just can't allow it. And by the way, so there are politicians in the U.S., mostly Republicans, who are speaking out against this. Good, I'm glad they're speaking out against this. But, there's a little bit of a problem here. The Patriot Act already gave the U.S. government the authority to do this same damn thing. So they're like, oh, this is fascism coming to Canada. Okay, but then a lot of these same politicians voted for the fascism that came to America. If you're going to call that fascism, then we also have it under the Patriot Act. Not only do they spy on everybody illegally with the rubber stamp fake FISA court, but also one of the things they can do is freeze bank accounts. No due process, no oversight. So they don't hold themselves to the same standards as we look at in Canada here. So they're using what's happening with this blockade and this protest in Canada. And they're using it like a 9/11 moment where they're like, let's just entrench more power and authority to the government. And look, you got to call a spade a spade. You got to call it what it is. This is rank authoritarianism. This is like textbook new age authoritarianism. That's what it is. And so my feelings on the specifics of this protest, like I told you, are mixed because the Teamsters Truckers Union is against the protest. 90% of the truckers are vaccinated, and the overwhelming majority of the protesters are against what they're doing. But at the same time, GoFundMe should not freeze their money. The government should not freeze their bank accounts. And you cannot call them terrorists. The precedent this sets is horrendous. And then look, the final point I'll make, and maybe people watching this, most of you are probably with everything I've said up to this point. But there's one point here where I might lose you. But it's okay, because it's how I feel about the matter. I see no problem with, instead of doing the hard vaccine mandate, just do vaccine or test. So people are so dead set on not getting the vaccine. Okay, look, you're wrong. The overwhelming statistical evidence says you're going to be fine, and if anything, the vaccine is going to help you. But you know what? 90% are already vaccinated. 9 out of 10, that's a lot of people vaccinated. So why not say, okay, if you don't want to get the vaccine, fine, just take a rapid test. That's it. That's not some ridiculous infringement on your liberty. No. Rapid test takes 2 seconds to swab the thing in your nose, and then you get the answer in 10 minutes, depending on which test you're using, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is. That's just a basic standard regulation. It's like telling construction workers you have to wear a hard hat. Nobody views that as like the death of freedom in the West. So is that not a compromise that makes sense? Okay, you don't have to get the vaccine if you don't want the vaccine, but you're going to take a quick test. That's it. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. And look, part of me is inclined to say, if you have 90% already vaccinated, I don't see why this is a big deal anyway. Why not just say, fine, okay, we concede, no more hard vaccine mandate. There you go. But I think what they're terrified of is this. If the protest works, if the blockade works, well, then they know workers have them by the balls. But you know what? That's exactly what I want. Even if I have disagreements with the nature of this specific protest, I love the idea of the precedent being laid. If you guys just blockade a couple bridges and demand stuff, you're going to get your demands, or at least you're going to get some of your demands. I think that's an awesome thing. I think it's nice for workers to be reminded, no, you do have the power, because there's so many more of you, and you're so much more necessary than the owner class. They just extract your surplus value. That's all they do. So you're way more necessary than they are, so remind them of it and make demands that are fair and just and intelligent. So if this is the thing that lays the precedent, great, wonderful. Again, I have disagreements with the nature of this specific protest, but that doesn't matter. I want that precedent to be set. The precedent I don't want to be set is you're a terrorist if you protest, and we're going to freeze your bank account, and we're going to freeze the crowdfunding that's supposed to go to you. So I do think this is authoritarian. I think if you're not opposing this, you've lost the plot, man. You've lost the plot. You could hate what these truckers, the specific thing they want. You could hate it, but you still, as a matter of principle, should say no on the freezing the bank accounts, no on the freezing the crowdfunding money, no on calling them terrorists, because that is slimy, it's disingenuous, and it is deeply authoritarian, and we have to call a spade a spade. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.